seconds.
It's a little dramatic for a countdown.
All right, everybody. Welcome again to another Crowdsourced Politics News Roundup. I'm your host and moderator, Cypher, also known as Anthony Rivera-Strain. Today, I am joined by Universal Discourse again.
Hi.
Mateo de Gaulle.
Hey, how's it going?
And Kristina Lorusso.
Hello.
First time today. Kristina,
Yes, it is.
tell us a little bit about yourself so the audience can get to know you. You've been in our community for a little bit now, but I know people probably don't know who you are or what you do. So please go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I am actually a co-host of a podcast called Xtemporaneous with an X. So you can kind of come and find us. It's an audio podcast, and you can find us on all of the normal directories. But in real life, I work in business development for a company. And previously, I have a little bit of a background in politics. I worked for a Illinois-based lobbyist, but we worked nationally. So I spent a lot of time in Springfield. I spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. And so I have a little bit of a background in it.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you allowed to say anything about that experience? I know that. So with Twitch specifically, I know there's going to be a lot of people who are like, "Whoa, lobbyist, what's going on with that?" But if you can expound upon it a little bit, that would be awesome.
Yeah, of course. It was Illinois politics right after Blagojevich was ousted, and the lobbyists that I worked for actually had a hand in kind of working with the FBI to pin him down on some things. And
Okay.
So that was. They were good guys in that way, but lobbying is it's a dirty business, and Illinois politics just in general very, very intense.
Okay. So before we get into the news and everything, again, Kristina, thank you so much for joining us. But how is everybody's week going? Like, is there anything new to report? We'll kind of shoot the shit a little bit. Anybody got new news going on? Anything want to share with anything? Interesting stories, what have you? If not, we can just get right started.
It's been a regular week for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah,
exciting.
I've been kind of really dialed into the Cuomo thing. I'm having a lot of angst around that. So I mean that's really what's been dominating my news feed lately.
I hear that we've had some things with that. So yeah. Within our community, with people having kind of same kind of anxiety and stuff like that surrounding that as well. So I hear that. Universal Discourse, anything new with your world debates? How are they going? You're still on mute.
Debates, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's really hard to flip back and forth since I can't fix whatever's wrong there.
It's all good.
Yeah, we're building back up and gearing up for those and getting some new members and really, really strong people from different areas in Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Since we want voices from all over the world, and we have 4 or 5 new international members. So,
awesome!
Yeah, Twitch is a lot bigger than one little category.
Yes. Politics has actually gotten bigger on Twitch since I've been paying attention to actually live shows. So I can see how it's been growing myself. We are hopefully going to have more people from the broader Twitch community join us on this program, as well as hosting some debates in the future. So be sure to stay tuned in for that. But I guess we should go ahead and get started with a couple of the big news stories of the week. Do anybody here have a particular topic they want to cover first, or should I just pull it out of the hat and we can go from there? I'm easy either way.
What if we got rid of the cheerleading mom or dance mom first?
Oh, you want to do the news weird? You want to do the news of the weird segment first?
Get the weirdness out of the way.
All right, Mateo, did you get that link? You know what I'm talking about?
This is the first I'm hearing about it. That's why.
All right. Cool. So I guess since Universal Discourse wants us to get the weirdness out of the way first, we're introducing a new segment that we're hopefully going to have on all our news roundups going forward, where we're going to find a weird, kind of interesting, maybe it has larger political ramifications, but it's definitely weird story every week from a different state. And first up on that is, and I'll share the screen so that you all can see it. Where is it? Screen. Stop showing me that. Tab. Here we go. So, woman accused of sending deep fakes to daughter's cheerleading rivals. The long story short of this is that a Pennsylvania woman is facing serious charges for making fake porn and other things of her daughter's cheerleading rivals on her squad. These things and sending it not only to parents and the coach themselves, but other members of the community, posing as a teenager and saying, "Oh, look at what these girls are doing." As you can see here, Victory Vipers has always promoted a family environment, and we are sorry for all individuals involved. We have very well established policies and a very strict anti-bullying policy in our program. Mark McTong said, Kelly Kramer told the network, "When this incident came to our attention last year, we immediately initiated our own internal investigation and took the appropriate action at the time. Incident happened outside of our gym," they added. So they're trying to like pass the buck that this has nothing to do with school and it should be going to the authorities. However, the reason why we, or I should say I, chose this news story is specifically because it involves deep fakes. And on our last news roundup, we talked a pretty good amount about deep fakes, with another kind of weird story when we covered the whole the deep fake with Tom Cruise with the magic tricks. And so, what kind of stuff does this have? Political ramifications? Is this just a weird story, or we're going to see more of this? Like, what's going on here? You guys think?
I mean, that's super weird.
Right?
Like, think about it, like how much time it took her just to create those, like, let alone the intent to do that to kids anyway. Like, I mean, that's just weird shit. I mean, the deepfake thing is going to be a problem for politics unless we can come up with some sort of verification thing in the future. But that story is just, I saw a headline about that. I never actually read it. So when, like, I just knew she was bullying kids or something with deepfakes. I didn't realize it was that far. It went that far.
Dropping the link in each of our chats so you all can read it yourselves. I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I pretty much get the gist of it. I feel like that, I mean, unless she did something even worse than that, but yeah.
I mean, that's pretty bad though, right? That's made
what I'm saying. It's like, I get the story. I think I get it.
Well, I meant for our audience so they have the link so they can reference. My bad.
Yeah, that's just disturbing shit though.
It is, and I think one of the things that is even more disturbing, I believe I remember reading it in that article, is that she sent texts also encouraging the girls to kill themselves. You know, so it's like revenge porn that really wasn't. They had nothing to do with that. They didn't do anything. They didn't have nudes out there or whatever. She actually created those and then encouraged them to kill themselves over something they didn't do, which is it's just like next level online bullying. And it's terrifying because if anybody has teenage children, it's a difficult world for them to navigate as it is. If this is a possibility and you've got adults behind it, my God.
Oh, it's not the first time though.
No.
It was several years back where a woman pretended to be her daughter, or then at one point pretended to be a young boy, and her daughter conspired to get this girl to commit suicide by pretending to be this young man and getting her to fall in love, and then starting to harass and stalk her because she did it because something stupid, like this girl had better grades or something.
Yeah, I mean, and also around the cheerleading world, I think that there was another case a while back in Texas that where something similar was happening and a parent was behind it. You got to wonder about these parents. But Mateo, you mentioned something interesting about sort of the implications on politics, and I think these deepfakes are going to have a serious effect going forward.
Yeah, I mean, look how easy it is to convince someone Hillary said something absurd. It already is. I mean, just, if you can have a video of her convincingly saying those things, I mean, people are going to believe what they want to believe already, but that's just super confirmation bias.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Another weird thing is on the link, there's a little pop-up video at the bottom. So they're talking about, well, she posted these deep fake of nudes. So they go to cover the story. And what do they use but a close-up zoom shot of cheerleaders in their super short skirts, just focused on their thighs.
Oh, God.
Man. I did not see that on mine.
At first I thought that's what she sent. And I went, oh, well, that's just... What is this footage doing here?
Jesus. Oy, it's just...
So if that's what the media itself is doing, what the hell? Why wouldn't the
We were going to end with
dance
this. Usually
mom
you end with a fluff piece. This is so dark.
This is very depressing.
This is like the thighs and then the golden pom-poms and then a pair of hands gripping the bars of a jail cell.
Jesus Christ.
Really?
Was that the graphics team trying to come up with something?
That was the video, the news. The video shown with the news announcement. Actual news announcement.
Wow, that's
what the hell is
pretty
this?
bizarre. I think like I think it also says something about like this hyper competition focus that parents try to live through their kids to a degree.
Yeah.
I've seen similar things, but not like anything to this degree where, parents try to live out their youth or vicariously live out their dreams through their children. And if their children start failing, well, then their dreams fail. So they have to figure out something to like boost them up or whatever. Like I see this in the kind of the similar vein, but worse because it was targeting children specifically, as what happened with the celebrities that bought their kids into UCLA and other colleges. Like I see like it's kind of a similar thing with parents trying to do whatever they can to help their kid. And obviously it's not noble because they're targeting kids and they're cheating and things of that nature. So I don't know if we can like see a way to like kind of tamp down on this to an extent somehow. I'm not a parent, so I don't understand that kind of mentality entirely.
Do you think this is helicopter parenting run amok? I mean, I see.
No. This is an aberration. The worst case of this was John Bonet Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
You would say this is similar to Kristina. What was your full comment there though?
Well, my point is that so that parents who are hyper involved in their children's lives, whether it is making sure that they're doing well at academics, and I don't know that it is necessarily. I think that you're correct in some cases that it can be they're living vicariously. But also, I think it's just being overly involved in your kids' lives and trying to micromanage everything that's happening in your kids' lives and give them some kind of competitive advantage. But I think universal discourse brings up when you were talking about it, I was thinking about John Bonet Ramsey. I was thinking exactly how that whole thing went down. And then, I mean, if you get into the true crime aspect of it, I mean, who killed her? Was it an intruder, or were things so intense and crazy in her home that somehow either her brother or her parent, one of her parents, killed her? I don't know, and I'm not trying to speculate on that, but it's just, I think that's illustrative of just the intensity, the incredible intensity, and that was how many years ago now. And so we've had all of these years in between to really ramp that up, and I think it's just getting more and more intense.
Yeah, and the pageant baby. I mean, then you ended up with Honey Boo Boo.
Mm-hmm.
And that which I thought was a travesty, really.
Absolutely. And the media, universal discourse, I think you mentioned previously the media and when you were talking about what the ad or the image, the video that was showing up on the link, the media the media loves these stories, right? So the media is also, I think, partially to blame, or at least keeping these kinds of things forefront and going.
No, I can definitely see that too. It's geez, it's just really, really, yeah, I don't know.
The movie Bully came out when there was a national campaign. I remember between John Bonet Ramsey and this was Honey Boo Boo and this movie Bully, about bullying and rashes of kids that were committing suicide for online. Then you have this other woman where the girl actually did kill herself, and her and her daughter were held accountable. Then you have this woman who I'm going to assume got stopped before something really horrible happened. And now the bullies are the parents.
Yeah. The parents are supposed to be stopping the bullying and being concerned about the bullying, not perpetuating it.
In the trial where the parents of the kids that were responsible for all these suicides because of bullying, not one parent would acknowledge the severity of what their children had done. Not one. Not one in the jury would prosecute them.
Jeez.
It's over 1,000.
Well,
so the judge was like,
yeah, go ahead.
You go to that length to protect your kids. Her daughter wasn't being bullied. Win at all costs. Yeah, there's lots of ways to do that. You do things like, oh, well, you know, what was it with the ice skaters where she had her Nancy Kerrigan?
Oh, yeah. Tanya Harding.
Tanya Harding.
Yep.
Win at all costs. The Tanya Harding movie comes out. I don't know. Maybe this woman watched Tanya Harding and think, yeah, I'll do that. It worked once before. Or I mean, because it's a copycat. It's almost a copycat. Type of thing. Imposters. But porn. What is she doing? Porn shaming them or something? Trying to put deep fakes. Yeah. So.
Well, clearly it can't be on the cheerleading squad if they're out there releasing nudes or something.
Yeah. And they all collectively got together on a Thursday night, smoking and drinking with no clothes on, and decided to upload something to TikTok or something. Yeah, that was like really. I mean, this is not an incredibly well thought out plan.
No, I agree. And I think it's good that it was caught, and thank goodness, the school caught on to it, and so that's a good thing. At least that's a good sign. But if you then extrapolate what she did and then put really professional people behind doing deep fakes, it's grim. It's a grim prognosis for politics in particular.
Yeah.
Well,
so it may be weird.
Sorry.
It's really
weird.
Serious.
Weird and dark. And
weird
hopefully the next one we find to cover in the next state, Pennsylvania. You're checked off the list. Congratulations.
Come to Florida. We've got a lot of weird down here.
I'm like, you know what? I think we can just say Florida is getting skipped because that's how many weird stories always come out. Florida man fighting gators, pulling out eyeballs and shit. But yeah, no, there was I don't know, there was a gator, and I don't know. I remember reading something about it, but definitely the next one hopefully won't be as dark. But that was the weird story for this week. I think it's good if we move on. We have several stories to cover. Since we just covered something so dark, I think it might be good to cover something a little more bright, a little more hopeful. Stimulus checks. They have started going out. If you qualified for them and you've already done your taxes, you should be getting them soon. I received mine yesterday. Some people had received theirs as early as Saturday, from what I understand. So what are the thoughts of people, or your thoughts on how this might impact the economy? Is it going to be positively impacting people's ability to maintain their rent in their home? Or is this kind of just water under the bridge and we still are going to see issues with it going forward, despite, the $3,000 child tax credit that most parents will be receiving per child, I should say?
The tax credit is going to make a big difference. But $1,400 for most people They could probably pay a little bit of debt if it isn't already too far gone. They can afford to file bankruptcy, or they might be able to pay bills for 1 month.
It's true. It's not going to be a ton. I think the increase to the unemployment benefits have a bigger impact than the one-time $1,400 check. I was unemployed for the majority of the pandemic, but because I went to school, I wasn't trying to actually look for work. I was trying to improve my skill set. Luckily, I did find a job. I'll be starting in April, so yay. But I know that a little bit of extra money basically ensured that I didn't ensure that I didn't have to dip into savings at all, but it helped immensely on that. So the people that are going to get that extra, I think it's $300 a month, are going to see a pretty big increase. But Mateo, what are your thoughts on this, man? With all this, you're the economics guy.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. It's a good thing, but like that was already said, it's not really going to help out people who really need it. I mean, if it's good, you don't want to argue against it, but like you said, the unemployment thing is just way more effective.
Okay. And the thing I'm wondering about the unemployment thing, and this is something I didn't know really, because I didn't know it until the pandemic started and people were losing their jobs, was that how much control the states have over the amount of unemployment benefits people can receive under block granting and that sort of thing. I was not aware that was a thing. It's kind of something that just was underneath my radar. I'm super into politics, guys. Obviously, I help run this show, and I didn't know about it. So I can only assume that a lot of other people that aren't as into politics as I am, also don't know about it. Is that something that we should look at remedying as a society to like make it more of a base thing, or do we think it's something that should be still left to the states to a degree?
Sounds like it's something that should be left to the states. I mean, how would it really be a federal thing?
Well, the program itself is largely paid for by unemployment insurance, which is part of what's the tax called? The exact name for the tax? I don't remember. It's whatever the FICA tax. That's what it is. The FICA tax that everybody pays. But the amount, like I think states contribute to it a bit. It's got a weird funding mechanism, so that's kind of why it's to the states. But that wasn't the way it always was. I don't think. I think it was part of the reforms that happened between the 80s and 90s for pushing more power to the states and block granting more programs. My issue with it is that you have some states that their maximum allowed unemployment that they give is like $300 or something like that. I don't want to talk completely out of my ass, but I know it's extremely low weekly benefit. Let me see. I'm thinking it might actually be Florida that actually gives, or no, Missouri, I think gives out a really low amount.
Yeah, it's poor. That's where I live. It's so poor. I mean, that's all they have is a block grant, which they can hardly ever distribute.
Yeah,
they don't even
Missouri,
insure single women.
People.
So I'm sorry, you guys talked over each other. Universal, could you repeat yourself and then Mateo?
Missouri cannot even insure single women.
Right.
It's that poor.
And what were you saying, Mateo?
Nothing stopping the federal government from like adding on, right?
True.
I mean, they could still give people money. It's just whether or not they can control what a state does. That's another story. But they can always, cover whatever gap. Say like the smallest state, the worst state for these benefits are. They can just fill in whatever the gap they think is necessary is.
And that would be one way to go about it. I just looked up Missouri's, and it's $320 a week. Maximum, weekly benefit adjustments $320 a week. So you're looking at roughly $1,200 a month. And I don't know the cost of living in Missouri, but that seems extremely low to me. Like in Texas, before the increase to unemployment benefits, before it was increased, I think the maximum was like $520 just or right around $500. So like even between two red states, like the maximum allowed is like night and day. So, and thank you, Mark. Mark did confirm it is FICA. So thank you for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So Mateo, I like that idea. Is there any benefit to having the states administer it at all, though? That's my question.
I mean, I'm not really prepared to say.
Okay,
yes
that's
or
fair.
No.
That's
I mean,
fair.
I'm sure there's arguments for it. I can't imagine it's just like. Actually, it could just come down to constitutional arguments. I wouldn't even be able to tell you.
Okay. Is there what do we? So we agree as the panel here currently. We agree that the $1,400 payment itself isn't going to impact things as much, but we agree that the increased unemployment benefit helps. We didn't really talk about the child tax credit too much. We talked about it a little bit on last week's show, but I want to get more opinions about that because that actually got passed and signed now. So it's here. Yeah. People are going to get, between, I think it's as low as $500 if your kid's already an adult but in college full time, and up to $3,600 if you have a kid that's 6 years or younger. But split a monthly check. So you divide that number by 12, and that's how much you'll be getting monthly. Democrats are already saying that we should try to make this a permanent benefit. So what are our thoughts about making this maybe a permanent benefit, something in the vein of what maybe Cory Booker or Mitt Romney would suggest?
Every mother is a working mother. It's one thing. If you do anything to assist, it's true.
Yeah.
No offense to men. I think that's just kind of the way it is most of the time. Anything that would allow people to be better parents is going to benefit long term for society. I hate to be very foo-foo about it, or you know what I'm saying, but it's true.
No, it is true, and something sustained like that. I'm sorry, I spoke over you. Are you? I think something sustained like that is going to improve things for society. We were having a conversation about poverty and how poverty leads to perhaps unplanned pregnancies. This was in a political forum that I was on, and we talked about, so there's an education component to that, but there's also a poverty relief component for that. So anything that is sustained and could potentially help people live economically safer or more securely is going to help have amazingly important social implications, I think.
It's a great point. I am not against UBI. I'm not against these payments. I think that these payments are actually one of the things that we can do to help the most, especially for working families or even families that maybe not be able to work, to make the lives of children just in general better, kind of filling those income gaps that might exist due to whatever reason. Maybe somebody's sick and they can't work full time, or maybe they just don't have the skills to work full time, or maybe they are working full time but they need childcare because they're a single mother or single parent, what have you. So I think Democrats actually pushing for this to become an election issue into 2022 might actually turn out to be a good thing. I'm not sure how it'll play out electorally, but I don't think anybody would necessarily disagree that working families and families in general need more assistance in the kind of social economic structure that we currently have in America. So is there?
Can I actually go back to one thing? You asked the question about the stimulus check, and I agree with everyone that for people who really need it, who are really struggling, it's going to be a drop in the bucket. I will tell you that many of the people I've been kind of talking to people about it and sort of saying, like, what are you going to do with your stimulus check? And I've been seeing people post things like about that online and sort of polling people. And I think that there's going to be quite a bit of it going back into the economy, where people for goods and fun things. Like I know somebody was saying they're going to buy a mattress, or they're going to go and buy a bunch of clothing. And so there are people who are planning to do stuff like that. But what I'm interested in is the timing on it, because we're starting to see more states besides Florida and Georgia relax their COVID restrictions. Yeah, Texas. But even out west, I think that even in California now, they're going to have where things were very buckled down. They're starting to open up their restaurants at a limited capacity. I know sort of even the Pacific Northwest, where again things had been quite strict. They're starting to open up, and I'm wondering about the confluence of that, getting the stimulus check and things starting to open up, and maybe where people are able to spend that money in fun ways, or to put it back into the economy, that they will put it back into the economy.
No, I think that's a good point. I also seen people that are in a better position, such as myself, talk about how they're going to turn around and put it into like the stock market. Mm-hmm. And so are we going to see the bubble further inflate? I think you've seen those memes, Mateo. Mm-hmm. Like you shared the one.
You're not alone. Deutsche Bank did a survey of young people, and people like, I think it's like age 25 to 34. 50% of what they're getting, they plan on putting it into stocks. And it's easy to assume they don't know a lot about stocks, so it's going to be like GameStop, the shit we've been hearing about. It's going to be the memes.
We like stonk.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to them.
So
but that's fine. I mean, that's only a few. Yeah, I'm not trying to say I'm not arguing against the stimulus because of it.
Yeah, no, it's not something that's like going to be huge. I don't think it's going to hugely inflate the stock market. But I don't see a correction happening anytime soon, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. Mateo, you pay attention to these kind of market things more. Is my worry unfounded, or what do you think about that?
Chances are fairly high for a correction, actually.
In the near term?
It wouldn't be a surprise. I mean, I can't really forecast. I'm not going to say
of course
accurately, but yeah, interest rates are rising really fast, and that makes credit markets tighter.
Gotcha.
All the growth stocks, everything that's been just exploding for the past 12 months, that's almost all tied to interest rates. And if you're expecting a ton of growth, you're a bond investor, you're going to sell your bonds. That's going to send interest rates up, and like I said, that tightens the market. So good chances for a correction, nothing like crazy or anything.
Okay. So and to be clear, none of us are experts. We're not fiduciary broker representatives or anything like that. So don't sue us. Don't take our recommendations as gospel here. That's not our job. We are pundits just like everybody else on Twitch. But yeah, I don't know if a correction would be. I think a correction actually would be a pretty good thing. It would open up some space in the market for people that might just be on the cusp of middle class and starting just to start investing. Be able to get into the market a bit cheaper. And corrections are always fairly good at assuming they don't cause a massive recession, but they're always pretty good at making up for excesses. So that thing. Kristina, I just wanted you to know that there's several people on Facebook wishing you well. Afra says that you're here, you're awesome, and that you're her favorite, while Mark Snydecker said she's decent, but I know that's a joke.
That's a he's my co-host. I paid him to say something, and obviously he's not getting a big check. Mark is not getting a good stimulus check for me for that decent comment. Come on, do better.
Oof. But yeah, so
paycheck.
Just like a 1,400 stimmy.
Yeah.
But
so hold on to your stimulus check and wait for the correction and then invest it.
That would be, I don't know. I can't say that because I put some money in the stock market recently because I put solar panels in. So instead of paying off my solar panels with the money that I got, I put it in the stock market. So, so I think we've kind of beat the stock market to death a bit here. I feel it's good to move on. We have several other topics that we need to talk about before we call it quits. We're also keeping this strict to an hour because Mateo and Kristina both have to leave. Or I'm sorry, Mateo definitely has to leave after an hour. So what do you want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about Ron Johnson's "I'm not afraid of Patriots" comment?
Why don't
First,
we,
or do we want to talk about the mass shooting that recently happened?
If we talked about the comment because it's quick, and then focused on something that's much more serious, maybe.
All right. So Ron Johnson, I'm correct on the senator or the congressman, right? Is it Ron Johnson?
Yep, from Wisconsin,
Wisconsin.
my home state. So.
Is that cheese?
Hey.
I don't want. Let me quote him directly, so I don't mess this up. Comment BLM. I should have had this pulled up sooner. Whatever. But I don't want to misquote him. Okay. Let's see. Let's see here. Where is this quote at? Oh, okay. Had the tables been turned and President Trump won the election and there were thousands of Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesters, I would have been concerned, he said in response to that. This isn't, and then his further comment was, this isn't about race, this is about riots. I have been attacked and criticized because I pushed back on the narrative that there were thousands of armed insurrectionists. And that's just a small part of the 74 million Americans that voted for President Trump and also need to be suspect of being potential domestic terrorists or also potentially armed insurrectionists. This is a false narrative. And so the few of us that push back on that, we are mercilessly attacked. I don't know if that's how I said it, but that's how I read it. So thoughts on this? What's going on here? Is there any validity to his comment at all, given what the Capitol riots were some of the intentions of the people at the Capitol riots were, and what he specifically called out Black Lives Matter and Antifa. We can talk about all this, but thoughts?
Validity to his statement, or validity to as far as the truth? Since the law is not the truth, but his statement was, he wasn't afraid of these people because they truly respect law enforcement and they would never do anything to break the law. So I wasn't concerned. 100 police officers injured, 1 dead. Literally been charged with breaking numerous laws. And look at the Twitch language in the press. They've co-opted literally. Unbelievable. What can you say at this point about, those people anymore? Those hat-wearing, flag-waving folks. What can you say about those 74 million people anymore? What is there to say about them anymore than has been said?
Yeah, I think... Go ahead.
Oh, I would just like to say that, for me, what he's essentially saying, and I think I read this in a Tribune article about the situation, is, well, they looked like me, so I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
And for anybody, and so everyone, I am a little bit enraged today because race has been just all over some of the things that I've been reading in some political forums, and sort of people saying, well, we're not a racist country. And that's essentially white people saying, that's it. It's good. We're not racist anymore. And that's them saying, I don't want to think about the fact that it is still racist and that we still have to contend with this. And so for a guy to say, a political leader to say, I wasn't afraid because they look like me, that just highlights how freaking far we have to go.
I think that's a good point. I'm not going to pretend to be able to read this guy's mind. So if I were to be charitable, I would say at the very least, it was 100% for certain. Hold on. Sorry. It was 100% for certain at the bare minimum tribalistic bullshit. Because what happened at the Capitol with the riots and everything like that, they were there. A lot of the people that were there's intent, the people that actually went into the building to like, where they went in there steal stuff. They went in there to, some of them went in there with wrist cuffs to like try to kidnap people, raised gallows there. So to say that, you know, you didn't have anything to worry about, well, then you were just assuming that they were on your side. So to be charitable, that's the most charitable you can be. But at the same time, like he called out Black Lives Matter, and there's this right-wing kind of narrative that every single Black Lives Matter protest has been violent, and that's not the case. Now, we can talk about how the media has downplayed the violence that did happen at these protests, specifically with some Antifa people, especially like in Portland, where people were like, I think it was a CNN thing that said, you know, peaceful but fiery or some bullshit because they're stupid as fuck. But I do think that there was a racial component to his comment, personally. But even if there wasn't, his comment was still stupid. So
it's just deeply disturbing how this is such nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes with a great deal of Kool-Aid. And all this has done is out of the woodwork crawl the worms. You have an opportunity because they've all exposed themselves. And if Biden's cabinet staff, if they don't get a handle on this now, they're just going to leave it forever, and it's only going to escalate. I have no idea what the government's going to do about that.
How do they get a handle on it? I'm interested
I have no idea
on what
how.
you're saying to pull that thread. I mean, how does that happen?
That's what I'm saying. I have no idea how they're going to do it. They're going to have to use every resource at their disposal. Plus, I think that kind of was the plan, to leave as big of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be cleaning this mess up for years, makes it very easy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's fact, it's straight out of the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
America thinks it's new because this has not really happened to America before. But I'm like, it's straight out of the playbook of many, junta coup attempts.
Mm-hmm.
Straight out.
Well, and it leaves things destabilized. And how can anyone, because our government moves slowly anyway. And I know a lot of people love that the government moves very slowly, but how can anything get really fixed? It can't. So then everything seems unstable, and that leaves doors open where probably doors shouldn't be open. How much is the media complicit in these things that are happening?
100%.
Well, that was easy.
No, I would agree with that. The media is pretty complicit in it. There's been now, I guess this is my Libra coming out. To be fair, media has been pushing back on media has been pushing.
You hold one hand up, Kristina. I'll hold the other. Together, we will triumph. We will find a balance. But he's the Cypher.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm gonna have to get a little overlay of that every time I say it now. But yes, to be fair, the media has been pushing back on that a little bit in the era of Trump, at least with racism, and there's been people in the wider community that is our Facebook group. And please, if you do Facebook, join our community. We're at groups/Tribune Commons. We are the community that gave birth to this podcast. We have it linked in our Twitch, but this is the link showing up on screen for y'all. So go ahead and do that. And if you don't do Facebook, join the Discord. We have a Discord too, also linked in Twitch. So yeah, please feel free to join us there and talk about these things with us and get to know our community better. But the wider community, there was a person that basically said, I don't know how they came up with this or why, but that we are in a post-racist society because of how often the media pushes back and institutions push back on racism. There might be some truth to that.
Right.
Like, there's no more
them,
racists
what does
in
that
society?
mean?
Or is it like a balance at like a certain threshold? Like, I feel like it's just such an empty statement.
They cured it. We slept through that part. I don't know. COVID causes amnesia, I guess. I don't know.
I think what they meant was that a lot of the institutions are coming out against at least overt racism, and they're one of the kind of people that don't really see systemic racism. Like they recognize it, but don't think it's as big as an issue as us. And I'm not going to say names here because
is that race denial?
I don't know. It's colorblind. It's a bunch of different things all rolled in together.
Been going on for 30 years. It started with all lives matter is basically that's the version of it. And I said you've painted. It's like the lathe of heaven solution, only instead of everybody being gray and in unisex. Okay, so they painted the world in one shade of rainbow. There's no pot of gold at the end of that.
Mateo, what are your...
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I talked over you. I got to get better at that. Mateo, what are your thoughts on this, man? I want to get your opinion on this before we switch off to another topic. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Talking about Ron Johnson specifically?
Talking about Ron Johnson and also like just kind of the broader topic with it.
I mean, what's weird about it is that like it's obvious if it was like the people who hate him, then he'd be like obviously Trump supporters aren't going to go after Ron Johnson. So it's like, I mean, I don't even know the context of these were even said, like, because I don't really pay much attention to politics these days now, to be honest. I think it's stupid. Like, it's obvious, even if he meant it as like, you know, let's just to be as charitable to him as possible. Let's just imagine he meant nothing with race, and he's like, "Oh, the BLM and the Antifa people would have came after me." I don't know. I think it's a weird comment. He would have had to. I would have to see why he was even asked about it. I really know so little about it, and honestly, I don't really care that much. It sounds like it's just another politician saying something really stupid.
Okay. And do you have anything you want to contribute to this whole like colorblind thing or whatever? No? All right.
No,
that's
I'm
fair.
Good.
All right. So that wraps up the Ron Johnson thing a little bit. So we have to talk about some more serious stuff. There's been another mass shooting. I'm sure everybody here on the panel is aware. I'm sure that most people watching us or that will watch us after this is fully up on YouTube tomorrow will know that a guy in Atlanta had killed, I believe it's 7 people, and shot up several massage parlors in Atlanta, specifically owned by Asian people. His motives right now, according to police and according to the police saying what he had claimed, is that he was targeting establishments that piqued his interest because he was a sex addict. But I don't know if this is a larger thing about race. We've had a slew of anti-Asian attacks since Trump tried to call it the China virus and that sort of thing. So is this a larger issue that's coming just to kind of fruition? Not fruition, like to a head, I guess would be a way to say that. Or is this kind of a one-off psycho person that just didn't know how to deal with his own shame, I guess? I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts about that?
I have no clue. I couldn't tell you.
That's fair.
I'll speculate wildly. For me, it smells like he got himself some kind of a defense attorney who said, we don't want this to be a hate crime. So let's make it about your sex addiction and you shot up massage parlors and killed women. Still a hate crime, my guy. So I don't know that it legally would be a hate crime, but it feels like a dodge to me if that's actually what the defense is going to be. I think it was racially motivated. How can it not be? It may be mix of the both, you know.
To clarify, as far as I know and what's been reported so far, this is something that he told police himself, and it's not coming from a lawyer, as far as I know.
like Kristina said, it's probably still a hate crime. I mean,
Oh no, for
if
sure.
you're targeting a race of people. I mean, I don't know the real technicalities of it, but I feel like we could get him under this. I'm hoping, at least.
Yeah, if he targeted women, it would still fall under hate crime jurisdiction.
Aren't they all Asian too? I mean, that's a
yes.
race
Yeah, they're all
and a
Asians.
gender.
Yeah.
It's gonna. I feel like it's going to be an easy case. I just hope it is, at least.
Well, we say, none of us are experts, don't worry, but that is an area of my expertise, actually. I can tell you he's flatly lying. And it's most likely that that's the Ted Bundy defense. Porn took over my brain. Also,
Right.
it's so post-racist. It's so encouraging that we've come so far. 3,800 attacks on Asian Americans in the last year alone. It's nothing to do with their race, does it? Might not have anything to do with their gender.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, it smelled
Uh,
vaguely incel. It smelled vaguely incel to me too.
Yes, exactly.
Like some good old fashioned hatred for women, and if they're Asian, that's a bonus too. So you get to take out two victim groups or traditionally victimized groups at once.
Sex addicts rarely attack their fix. It's like a drug addict that would burn their own stash. Like they rarely do that. Like even they just don't.
true.
They don't. If he had a pornography addiction and his behavior a true addiction to pornography, where he sits at home and hides it and hides it and hides it, okay, and it gets worse and worse and worse, this kind of thing, worse and worse. So they have to resort to more and more and more. It's still so rare that you would go from maybe extremely violent pornography to murder. No, he's lying. He either has to have a serious mental illness or he is lying. And because out of his mouth, he said, I did it because of my sex addiction. Then he had forethought. He thought that was going to work because that was Ted Bundy's excuse.
That's a good point. Yeah. That implies he thought about it.
Yeah. When I first heard about this, like, I hate to say this, but there is a huge problem with white guys having Asian fetishes. It's just one of those things. Like if you've been in the military at all, like you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, and so when I heard like Asian massage parlor shooting, I'm like, fuck, this is a fetishization. This is somebody that might have been told no. Like I definitely got that incel-y kind of vibe from it as soon as I just read it. And then when he came out and he's like, oh, it's a sex addiction, I was like, right.
I'm gonna be vulgar about it. All he had to do was wait for his stimulus check to come in and all his little problems would have been solved. All he had to do was wait a few days.
Oh man.
So no, he's lying completely. Are there no other type of massage parlors in his city? That's the first thing. I wasn't able to look at that, but that's what I'd want to know. If he chose exclusively Asian, then I'm sorry, we're so post-racist. Oh.
As far as I know, it was like I don't know if he was caught before he could do other things, but those were the intended targets. We do have a couple of comments from
killed two
chat.
Asian men.
Yes, well. Killed two Asian men as well. I think and a white guy. I think a white guy actually got killed. Doesn't
those
change
people
anything.
Trying to stop him too. I mean, if he, well, I don't know enough. I mean, it sounds a lot like target Asian people though.
More details will be forthcoming. I am sure in the next couple of days. We do have some comments from chat. Afra, one of our podcasters, says my comments were spot on. So thank you, Afra. Appreciate that. There are no useful comments in the chat. Yeah, that's true. There's not that many, but we do have speculation from Shelton asking self-loathing, like the attack at the gay club in Orlando. So I think that is a thing that we can explore a little bit with that because, next the chat again.
But what would that mean? That he was an Asian masseuse? Would that be some kind of, how would that resort to self-loathing?
Yeah, I feel like if it was like,
I think that goes to incel
murder.
Yeah,
I do too.
That's what I was saying.
Self-loathing unless he was Asian. Also,
it goes to definitely. I think she's right.
I mean, it just sounds more racist. Maybe not even.
Yeah, incel is racist too.
Oh, yeah.
Some are the Venn diagram between online inceldom and racism it's not a perfect circle, but it's very close.
Violent crimes are sexually motivated, and that's why it's so confusing. So
True.
if there was any incel, involuntary celibate, let's call that what it's spelled out to be, okay, which means other guys can get women to give them sex where these men cannot. And if he had frequented the massage parlor, paid for it, and that was his credo, and that tore him up, then it would almost be a matter of principle. But you have an extremely I'm not even the word for that. The degree of not developed,
right,
would be is profound, almost to the point you'd have to say cognitively impaired.
I think what After said is
very bad.
Sounds most likely like he hated his fetish and externalized it pretty much. Like that's what it sort of sounds like. If it's like a sex, if he's not lying about the sex,
that's
thing.
his. I would say that's his defense.
Well, then that's his defense.
He would only hate his fetish if
I mean, I don't even.
If he had a paraphilia and had spent thousands of dollars and hated himself for doing it, like you can't just hate you can't just have self. It doesn't. It's more than that. You have to have way more than that. So he has to trigger it, and you have to have been like in love with that thing you hate to kill the thing you love. That's how that works, and it's so rare.
If he's self-loathing, he's spot on.
Yeah.
So
from what I understand, just one quick thing. No, you're good. From what I understand, he did visit some of these places, so that could be his defense.
That would be that he had a credo. For instance, he could be, women owe me, I have to go pay for it. It makes him boil. If his buddies or his other people found out that he had to go pay for it, and he was in that community, he would have to do something to reconcile the cognitive dissonance.
So
go ahead, Kristina.
This may or may not apply. I've actually done some research quite a bit of research on incel for podcasts that we did. And one of the things that I discovered is that the incel community often talks about the fact that Asian women are available to them in different, and they advocate for going over to Asia, to Asian countries and finding a girlfriend, not necessarily getting a wife, because then once you bring these women back to the States, then they leave you, but getting a girlfriend. And so it could be that again, wild speculation, but maybe he was rejected at some point. He was paying for it, and maybe he thought, well, maybe there's some kind of real relationship that's going on, and he could then been rejected for anything beyond what was happening in the massage parlors for pay, and then lashed out that way as well. It just, like I said, it just has that very incel-y, angry feel to it, and lots of rejection built up behind it, and then lashing out.
Or the fact that the economy was so bad that he couldn't access.
Yes.
And if you don't think that people withdraw from sex addiction, oh yeah, it's about 10 times more potent than heroin. They're addicted to their own.
It's true.
Dopamine, peptides, oxytocin.
And there was another comment that I think we talked about a little bit, but we didn't draw direct attention to it. And this is on my personal wall, so I'm not going to name the name. But they said, I love how people making this argument or with one breath saying maybe he had an Asian fetish, as if itself is not racism. What the fuck?
Correct.
And I think fetishizing
a race
is
like a race-based fetish, then
100%.
Correct. It's misogynistic. It's racist. So, if you want to be fundamental about it, that's misogyny and racism. I guess that's a hate crime. And Kristina said it from the very first sentence. I was like, any way you look at it, it's a hate crime. And believe 100% that he's lying out his flat butt.
Yeah, I mean it's more likely than not for that to be the case. So,
Yeah.
but I don't discount any hangups, religious hangups with people, especially in the Bible Belt. So, yeah, it could be both. So, I lean more towards what Universal said, though. We're at just about an hour of time. Do we have any other topics y'all want to cover? I think we hit the big ones that I sent you on our list. But if there's anything else we specifically want to cover, please make it known now.
I don't have anything else to add like I did last time, and this was enjoyable.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. I really, really enjoyed this. It was great to meet Universal Discourse and Mateo.
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Kristina. Go ahead and shout yourself out again at the close, and then we'll wrap it up.
Oh, great. Well, my co-host Mark Snedeker and I do a podcast called Xtemporaneous. It's spelled with an X, and we are available on all of the podcast directories. So if you just type in our name, you'll find us there. We do some political things. We do, just sort of pop culture things. And the most current one that we released today is on Andrew Cuomo and his travails. So come and find us.
All right. And that podcast name again is, can you say it one more time for the audience?
Xtemporaneous with an X. So Xtemporaneous. Xtemporaneous.
I will be sure to hit you up later to get a direct link for that so we can include it in the comments below these videos to make sure everybody can check you out with ease.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you again, Kristina, for coming on. Universal Discourse, go ahead and shout yourself out as well, and we'll consider it good.
Universal Discourse is currently several things, but a stream on Twitch, and I cover decolonization, indigenous issues, quantum theory. I coach debate, and we're looking for people who want to learn the South African world style of debate, which is very rigorous. We also hold open panels, and then we do some really cool things with the Cree Council for gaining consensus and problem solving, and karaoke open mic nights, D&D, and a Goodwill tour, just to make sure we don't drive ourselves crazy working too hard. So it's just Universal Discourse on Twitch.
And everybody, I can confirm that it is a very rigorous debate thing. I myself have been on there, and it was a great amount of fun. So people, if you're on our Facebook community or if you're on our YouTube community, Discord, whatever have you, please go ahead and go to Universal Discourse's Twitch channel. Give them a follow and stay tuned for the things that they bring us, because they help make the community better. Yeah. Well, but with that, I am sad to say that we are out of time. So please join the Facebook community. If you do Facebook, we're at Tribune Commons. We are our fast-growing community that came out of another community, birthed this podcast, and have since gone on to bigger, better things, or not bigger, better things. I shouldn't talk shit, but different things, I should say. And if you don't do Facebook, join the Discord. We're on Discord. You can hit us up there. We have different channels for different types of topics. Let's go ahead and check us out there. And with that, I am sad to say we're out of time. Hit that follow button, and everybody, be sure to keep your head up through the political storm.